Jeff Wagner. So good to be
Nicole,
here with
we finally got this working. Oh my gosh. It was like restart, go, go, go.
you. Yeah, this is a constant in my life, Jeff. And Chris isn't here, Chubsy, my partner, as you know. He's
Yeah,
always my tech support. I have zero tech support right now, Jeff. So life's a little bit more difficult than usual, but we got there.
we got it. All we had to do is restart the browser.
Can I just say, do you know what makes me so happy right now? I know people who are just listening to this won't get it. So go to the YouTube channel so you do get it. What makes me so happy right now is your shirt, your party shirt.
Thank
Like,
you. This
how can
is,
you not feel good about life when you're walking around in that?
well, it's Christmas next week and it's your show. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put on a nice, happy, excited, because I'm excited to be here shirt. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's going to be
Oh,
awesome.
awesome. Well, Jeff, let's get into it, hey? Let's dive deep.
Oh
Um,
man,
because I've
Nicole,
got
let's dive deep. Bitcoin broke new all-time highs again today and took out 108,000 in anticipation of our podcast chat.
is that a sign?
It is a sign. It's a sign that everybody wants to stick around and listen. They're going to learn something cool.
Absolutely, they are. And that's the thing. I want to dive into Jeff Wagner's brain around all of this. Now, just to set this up, I believe we're going to have people who are listening in are, I would say, more new beginners
Okay.
in this space because I think majority of people are like even yes I've been diving into this space a lot more in the last 18 months or so, but I'm still new. I still would tag myself as new. So let's come from that space. Now, before we get into it, because just so everyone knows, Jeff is our go to Bitcoin guy. He is the man that we bring in to Women to Wealth. And we only bring in the best of the best men, just so you know, Jeff.
Yes, I
Uh,
like being the women to wealth best man.
Love that. You're so, and I know I've said this many times, but you are a phenomenal teacher. The way that you explain complex concepts and just help us understand it, because sometimes this whole world can feel a little bit like Chinese. And you are just a phenomenal teacher. I know you've been in this space for a long time, but can you maybe just share with everyone who's listening in just a little bit about your background and how, and also why you've gone deep into the Bitcoin world in how many years? The last,
Well, I mean, I went really deep back in 2020. I
yeah.
first started looking at Bitcoin when it was $5, and I think it was around 2015 that I finally bought some. But I yeah, like I've got very much an entrepreneur. I have a background in the housing space, like probably many of you people listening, right? Yeah, I've done some development. I've owned a couple companies, and that's great, right? But I really love the entrepreneurship of the Bitcoin and crypto world, and the opportunity, and it moves so quick. And right now, in my lifetime, I remember high school, the green computers were just coming out. We had the floppy drives, and then I got lucky to be able to learn how to use a computer and to start to understand the technology of how it would shift things. But I also saw some of my peers get left behind because they didn't get lucky enough to be in the class. There could only be so many students could attend. We had one high school where I lived, and you had to, be handpicked to be in this class. And so even today, when I'll be hanging out with friends, and they're still, it's all thumbs on the tech, and they're just, struggling. And so I was in a unique point of life where I saw that, and I saw what happens when you get left behind. I saw the internet boom happen, right, in 98, 99, and into 2000, and then the subsequent crash, right? And a lot of people saying, oh, the internet's broken, it's never going to work, no one's going to buy online. And then I saw, the subsequent just absolute tsunami of buyers and purchasers, which all of you now just think of as normal. But back then, it wasn't so normal. And I really feel the exact same thing is happening now in finance, right? Like people don't want to wait 3, 4, 5 days, Nicole, to send something to you, right? Or to get their money. They don't want to pay these horrendous fees. And we're just seeing a better option with Bitcoin and with crypto. And I do look at the two very distinct. But why it's become so passionate to me, and in particularly Bitcoin, is once you understand it, it's really freedom money. It's money that can't be diluted, can't be stolen from you. It's completely, your choice to do with it what you want. So those principles of freedom and liberty and privacy are very important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll dive into that a little bit as well. I love how you said there, Jeff, lean in or lean out. And I think it's something I'm always keeping an eye on, because I find those who are able to create incredible results and have these even quantum leaps, and just they think a whole different, right? They produce these whole different results in their life. They lean in, but they know the right things to lean into. And, I think of the internet as well. And a lot of people say, well, people don't like change. Yeah, but it's the only constant. So people might think they don't like change, but it will change, and so will they. And, I'm sure when the internet came, we all thought, like, all I remember was this big box that was colorful on the back, which was pretty, had this dial up tone. I thought, oh my God, this is so cool. Look at this big box I've got at home. But I didn't know how it worked. I
Yeah.
had no clue, but it was there. It existed in my world. And I think, I was reading something, it might have been a TED talk, and she said something really great. She said, when has it ever been a good time in history to bet against a technology when the technology helps us do things more effective,
Yeah.
faster, and easier? Tell me when you would bet against that. When has that not eventually been adopted? And so
Right.
that's the thinking I have. I'm like, aha, this is a lean in sign, to understand
Yeah.
this, even though it
Very
might
true.
feel like Chinese, even though it might be like, I don't get that world yet. So I
Yeah.
love that.
I
Um,
love that. It's a good point.
yeah. For someone who is brand new, can you explain what is Bitcoin in the most simple terms?
Sure. So imagine a ledger, like an accounting ledger, okay? So that is just software. So just like the computer is, right? So right now you're watching this video and Nicole and I are talking live, except it's not really live. It's just, well, it is live, right? Because Nicole, you're in Australia and I'm in Canada, and we have this, like, these ones and zeros in software somewhere that are, pushing video across, which I remember reading comic books thinking, oh my gosh, we're gonna have video calls, like how amazing, and how techy that's gonna be. And here we are, right? But it's not like you can't really touch it, right? But it still does a really good purpose, which is this conversation we're having. And for those of you listening, it's the same thing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin software that works in the digital world, and it's a ledger, and it's borderless. Anybody can use it. Anybody can come in and participate in it. So it's just like if you're using a Zoom call, you can come in and use a Zoom call. Just like you're using YouTube, you can watch YouTube. Bitcoin works in a similar fashion, and it takes a machine of many computers around the world that are all racing to answer one question. And it's a very complex math question. So once they answer that question, whoever wins first in the race gets to put another block of data in on the chain, and then at that point gives them a Bitcoin. Everybody else races to the next one. And so these blocks start forming. One block here, another block here, another block here, another block here, right? And that's been going on every 10 minutes for over 15 years. Now, what's powerful with that is those blocks have data, just like you would save this video to your computer, right? It's the same kind of idea. It's not video data, but it's data that links it there, that timestamps it, that says it, that secures it. So it becomes this very secure method, all right? And now, if I wanted to say, send something to Nicole, let's say I wanted to send her $100 worth of Bitcoin, it now has to go on that network, except that every computer in the world is going to verify that this is actually supposed to happen. And once you verify it, right, because it's open, everybody can see it, then they allow the transaction to go through. And that happens in, basically at the speed of light as it's processing. And then, to be super safe, it takes about 10 minutes for that to process through and come to you. And there's a lot more to talk about, but I'm trying to keep it as, as
And
simple as I
then,
can. But for
yeah,
everybody listening, just think of it as software that runs on computers all around the world. They all have to agree that a complex answer is the correct answer, and then they are able to mine and form another block of data in a Bitcoin in the chain.
yeah, that's fantastic explanation. If I can get it, majority can get it for sure.
You're pretty
And
sharp,
just,
Nicole.
just to what you said before, it doesn't take 5 days to land there.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, where is it? Stop it. It's just out in the ether somewhere. Like, stop.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, somebody, a very famous wallet, moved this year over $2 billion, and the cost was less than $4 to transfer it in Bitcoin, and it happened. It was confirmed in 10 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, amazing.
I was just, yeah, it's incredible. I tipped my bartender. I was at a crypto conference in Vegas, and I tipped my bartender in Bitcoin.
That's cool.
He was like, didn't even know Bitcoin. I'm like, just put this app on your phone, and I'm going to click it through. And I just tipped him because I love helping people figure out more about Bitcoin and learn more about it.
And even just dip their toes in, right? Like with that, for those who are those, I guess, because everyone starts as a beginner, right? That's the starting line of
Absolutely.
anything.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest mistakes? Let's get that sorted first for everyone. What are some of the most common mistakes that people make when they're entering into this space, and how do they avoid it? How do they avoid those common mistakes?
So one of the biggest mistakes is this: people get curious, right? They listen to a few things, but they never do anything.
Mm.
Okay. So you just have to get off zero. Just simply say, you know what? I'm just going to go and buy, $100 or $50, right? Or in my case, I'm just going to tip this bartender who was super nice to me. I love mezcal. Showed me all these really cool mezcals, and gave me a few sips and didn't charge me for it. And I'm like, I'm going to tip this guy. And I'm like, hey man, I love to operate in a state of abundance. What would you think if I tipped you in Bitcoin instead? I gave you some Bitcoin. And he was like, that'd be cool, but I have no idea how it works. And I give him a quick explanation, download an app, scan the QR code, boom, it starts moving, but it moves on a network of computers all around the world. So in that case, I've just helped this guy. I've got him off zero. So if you're listening right now, probably the biggest mistake you'll do is to not buy just a tiny bit of Bitcoin. Because people hear $108,000, Nicole, which was, we broke that today, but they think they have to spend 108,000, but you don't. You can buy Bitcoin up to 8 decimal points. So I mean, you can go right down to like $2 or like way less than that. But you could buy yourself $8, $10, up $50. Just buy a little bit and figure it out. So I would say that's probably the biggest mistake because they listen to this and then they don't do anything.
I really love
Now,
that. It's not what I thought you were going to say, but
right?
it's so obvious. Yeah.
Oh, what did you think I was going to say?
Don't know. I thought it was going to be something like, the technical side, probably because I'm technically challenged, but, like going on and trying to figure out the wallet. But then as I think about that, like breaking it down, like setting up exchange wallets and doing all of that, sometimes that's exactly where people stop because it is like, wow, this is hard. This is unknown. I can't figure it out when you
Hmm.
can. But yeah, I get that means that most people stop before they start.
The second biggest mistake I see is this. Oh, hey, man. Yeah, you said to buy Bitcoin? Yeah, it was great. I know. I super listened to Nicole's podcast. It was super cool. Yeah, so I went out and it was awesome. I bought Dogecoin and I bought XRP and I bought Ethereum. It was so, yeah. You mean buy Bitcoin? Yeah, no, I know, but it's already gone up. And so I listened to this other guy and they said I should do that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was so great, man. I mean, I love this thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hey, what do you think of XRP? Right? Yeah. You know, Nicole, I'm telling you, it'd be so many of those conversations, right? It's like you just so what happens then is people you get it and you start to think about it, and then you get distracted by the next shiny object. And there are many shiny objects in the crypto space, and I'm not knocking those other coins. I'm just saying Bitcoin is the biggest. It's the wheel that was first invented, right? There's almost $2 trillion market cap, and literally I see people think it's just not going to go anymore. They're not going to do anymore. It's obsolete, and all these other arguments of everybody else trying to get you to buy anything else but Bitcoin. So, yeah, you can't let yourself get distracted either. You have to just get in, study this one first, figure it out a little bit, understand it, and then start moving over into the other stuff.
Yes, such great advice. And you know what, Jeff? This actually was coming up in conversation because there's a principle to learn here, especially as there's a lot of noise and hype happening entering the bull run. But it is this, and I'm getting coaching in this space. One from you. I've got another coach in this space because when I decide to learn something, I want to go to the people who are experts in it to teach me.
Yeah.
And you and they continually say there is a principle called DYOR, do your own research. So the first thing
Correct.
is knowing where to do the research, and that's why I find people like you. That's why we bring you into Women to Wealth, because you're a trusted tool.
Thank you.
But it's also the financial responsibility. Like it can't be my mate said so because my
Right.
mate said so. That may open the door, but then it's like, okay, now let me understand, which means, yeah, we're going to have to put some time into something. We're going to have to learn it. Like, I don't want to play the lottery game where it's like, hopefully I do that and fingers crossed it's a big win, but then whinge when it's not a win, or say the crypto is a scam when I don't win. It's like,
Right.
no, I didn't do the research. I didn't follow DYOR, do your own research and have that financial responsibility. So, and we're chatting about this in the course that we're doing at the moment with you, is that even with the plan that Chris and I are creating around this space, there's a plan, but we know why we're putting the plan in place. So we know why we're
Correct.
buying into something, not because our mate said, because we went 2, 3 levels deeper. Oh, why would we buy that? Why would we exit at that point? Why would we hold that particular crypto for a really long time? So I think just with what you're sharing there, it's so important that we get that. It's like, what's the why
Yeah.
behind what it is you're buying into and your strategy around it? And each of us, we're adults. We have to figure that out ourselves. I don't think you can skip that.
You can't skip it, but like what I like to do, Nicole, is I like to delegate my failures to my mentors. I'll let I'll let them handle my failures. So as much as I can, that brings the time compression in, right? So that's where if you can study or learn or get something from somebody, you can get it um, in the best way, as long as it's a trusted source. But yes, you still need to do your own research and still follow your own, follow your instincts really and think it through. Um, and I guess so saying if the mistakes I see people make, right, is number one, they hear something, they think it's cool, but they don't even get off zero. They don't just go by a little bit and try. Then the second thing is, they hear about Bitcoin, the rah rah rah, then they get chased off to somewhere else, and they start, they get excited, and then they're way over here. They're nowhere on the Bitcoin path at all. And then the third thing is that a lot of times people, and this is okay, but they'll put they'll buy on an exchange, they'll buy with a broker and that, but then they're so accustomed leaving money in the bank, they'll actually just leave their Bitcoin there. And I helped somebody here the other day who is quite elderly, who's had their Bitcoin sitting on an exchange from like 2017, wasn't sure about passwords, wasn't sure about this or that. And so what happens is people don't take the responsibility seriously to self custody their own digital assets. So you don't have to leave it with a third party. So like if I give you my phone here, right? I got to trust that you're going to give it back to me, right? And it's just like that with your Bitcoin. If you leave your Bitcoin or you buy your Bitcoin through a third party and then you leave it there, just like I'm going to leave my phone, you have to trust that that third party will give it back to you, that your paper claim, right? Your username and password with that exchange will work. I recently saw something at a Coinbase where this person has had quite a bit of wealth that had accumulated, and they go to withdraw it from Coinbase, and they're like, well, we want to know where it is. How come you got it? What did you do? How about prove to us how you got the funds? Prove this, prove that. I mean, it kind of takes away the whole point of self custody, or like of owning Bitcoin, when you just give it to somebody else to take care of for you. And then that's where a lot of scams and stuff happen, like FTX. If people had kept the Bitcoin themselves, it would have been hard when FTX blew up, and they were an exchange a couple years ago that stole everybody's crypto. Well, it's hard for them to do that if people aren't giving them their crypto, right? So in
Can
this,
you
we like to say,
explain?
not your keys, not your coins.
Yes, perfect. Not your keys, not your coins. Can you quickly explain custodial versus non-custodial, just to
Sure.
help tie a bow on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So a custodial is somebody like a typical bank or a broker who will take care of your stocks or take care of your dollars, right, in your, like, your cash, right? So you imagine, you've put cash in the bank, but if you've ever had to go to a bank and withdraw large sums of money, and they always say, well, what are you doing with it? Right? Or where are you gonna, where you're just like, well, it's my money. Well, you need to tell us what you're doing with it, right? And there's a bit of that going on, and if you're trying to say, and I get that, there's checks and balances and all that. I understand all that, but you're trusting that when you need to, you have the right to go and get your money. And your money represents your time, energy, right? Your hard work, your intellectual property up in your brain, right? You express that in the money that you create in the world and how you save it, right? So it's really important to be able to access your energy when you need it. Now, self custody would be considered like this: you're at home, you have cash in your purse or in your wallet, right? Or maybe you have some gold in a safe, right? That's yours, right? You're taking care of it. You're responsible for the cash, you're responsible for the gold in the safe, that type of thing. When you come to crypto, you have an option to do, a custom, leave your Bitcoin, let's say, with a custodial, such as like a Coinbase or Kraken, or some of the Binance, some of these big names. Or you have the option to actually say, no, I'm going to take care of it myself, and I'll protect it. There's a variety of ways to do that. We don't have to go into it now, but you can have it as secure or more secure than you would at a broker, and it's always in your possession. It's always in your control. So this is my phone now, right? I have it, and I can access it from anywhere in the world on the most securely encrypted computer network in the world is Bitcoin. So that's kind of a rough lay down on it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just think it's so important. I think that, when you're a beginner in this space, you probably don't know that. And it's just such important information to know. And I know that you teach us in the course in detail how to
Mhm.
set that up and the pathways. But first thing is just knowing about it. So thank you. Hey, let's talk about the bull run. So,
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm saying, we're about to enter the next bull run. Um, what what is a bull run? What do you think? Is there something that drives a bull run? It's cyclical. Like, what can you tell us around about the bull run, bull bear market? Bull markets, bear markets. Give us the lowdown with this.
So a bull market means somebody who's bullish. It means they think prices are going to go up, right? And so you'll hear bull run is like the bulls are running, they're all going this way. And in general, we see prices go up as measured in dollar terms. And so what we're seeing now is as the United States goes, so goes the world, is the saying, right? Because the US is the benchmark, currency of the world, the petrodollar. And in the United States, there has been absolute widespread oppression of crypto. It has been brutal. People have been trying to get ETFs, electronically traded funds, for 10 years, right? There's been all sorts of companies that have left the United States and gone overseas because of the compliance. Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, who's just recently resigned, it was very famous for saying, "Come on in and register. We want you to be compliant." But then people would go in to register, and they'd say, "Well, how do I register?" And they'd say, "Well, you have to figure that out. You have to be compliant." And so people are like, "Well, you said to come in and register. I'm here." "Yeah, you are. You need to get registered, but how do I register?" "Well, you're going to have to figure that out. You need to be compliant." Right? And so there's this craziness that was going on, and a lot of goons out there, absolutely, trying to crush the space, and anti-crypto and anti-Bitcoin, and a lot of activists. So what happened was, when Trump got elected, he's pro-crypto, right? Pro-Bitcoin. He actually was in Nashville at a Bitcoin conference and spoke there prior to his election. When he got elected, and not just elected, they swept the United States in red, right? The conservatives won. All of a sudden, people were going, "Holy smokes, wait a minute. This wasn't on our radar." A lot of pollsters were saying like it was going to be neck to neck, really tight. They didn't expect this sweep. So now the whole world has to readjust to the fact that a pro crypto president's coming in, which for me, I'm libertarian. Okay, I think the less government, the better, but at least give me somebody who's pro crypto. Okay, and I was at Mar-a-Lago for an opportunity there about a year ago. I was able to go to Mar-a-Lago with a few other crypto people. I heard President Trump speak there, and he was very pro crypto, very pro NFTs. And so it's really exciting to see that happen now, because for the first time, we're not going to have goons and people fighting us and coming against us in the crypto space, right? As with all this tech development, we are actually just going to get at nothing else. If we just went to neutral, that would be great, right? And nobody's fighting us anymore. Just get us to neutral. But now it's going to come with clarity and someone who's appointing pro crypto people in their cabinet and in their presidency. And I mean, it's really exciting. And so I said all that to say now the market's looking at this and saying, holy smokes, we have to reprice everything. We're bullish. Trump is elected. He's going to be pro crypto. He's going to be pro Bitcoin. They might get a Bitcoin strategic reserve, just like gold and oil, right? That they have. And I mean, if that happens, that's a big, big deal. And then that's why we're seeing these prices they've been suppressed for so long, like a balloon underneath the water, right? We're just seeing these prices start to come out of there and get back to where they really should be with this amazing technology.
For those who are thinking of people who are like, oh, have I missed the boat? Like, oh, it seems, it's hit its all time highs. For now, I mean, it's got to do that each time, right? It's got to hit an all time high. We just don't know how high it can eventually go. What would you say to people who are like, have I missed the boat? And how do I take advantage of this bull run period?
Look, Nicole, since I got out of high school, my money's been devalued by over 50%. Okay. Now, if you were in first world country during the pandemic in the last 4 years, inflation's gone up about 28%. Okay, so you gotta look at it a little differently. You say, have I missed it? I mean, you're not early anymore, but there's 21 million Bitcoin. This is encrypted technology. It's encrypting your energy that nobody can come in and dilute it. You can't just go, dilute the money supply, right? Steal from me, right? So when that happens, it's a real wake up call for a lot of people to say, I need to put my time and energy, my wealth into something else that can't be stolen from me, right? That can't be just diluted and take away my purchasing power. So, are you late? Definitely not. Are you early? Well, you're not early, but you're definitely not late. But at a bare minimum, what's happening is all around the world, people are waking up and saying, "Wait a minute, you're telling me that I don't have to save my time and energy and my hard work in dollars, that a bureaucrat somewhere can decide to dilute by printing way more money? I don't have to do that. There's another option for me, right? And poor people are waking up and realizing that, hey, I can just put $50 in, right? I early this year helped kind of a kid almost off the streets of LA, right? Gang type of kid, chulo, and he's changing his life. Shout out to him for that. But he said to me, man, look, he says, I only think I can do like maybe $50 or so. And I'm like, if you just do it consistently, right? You're going to do great. And I messaged him the other day and he's like, oh my gosh, it's grown so much, Jeff. It's so grown so much, right? I mean, I love that. So it doesn't matter where you are at in life. It gives you the ability to opt out of a system that's using inflation to steal your hard work and energy, and you can put it into something like Bitcoin. And that's why we're seeing such a trajectory of the price of Bitcoin as people are coming in and saying, I need something better. And it's just
Yeah.
a better monetary system.
Yeah, you're so right. It's such a big conversation, and as you said, it's nearly like we've got to pull ourselves out of this box and the way that we have been taught to think about the whole money system and how it's
Right.
created and how it flows and how it works and all of that, and kind of pull ourselves out because it is, like people talking about like the cost of things, and you nailed it then. You said the dollar is being diluted, it's being devalued. I mean, Biden probably just printed another $1 trillion. That's the thing. It's like every dollar, the purchasing power is now worth so much less. But I
Yeah.
look at Bitcoin and I go, well, value has to be, it's inherently built in, right? It's capped. There is a finite amount. You can't just print more Bitcoin. It's written in to the
Correct.
algorithm. Yeah.
And it's expensive to create.
Right.
And there's only so much a day that can be created. Right now, there's only 450 a day. That'll go to half around in early to mid 2028. Right. Then it'll only be 225. Right. So it's a scarce asset that constantly gets harder and harder to make. Right. So I don't know if your audience likes wine. All right.
Well, I do, so let's go
And
there.
I do. Okay. But just try this exercise. All right. For everybody listening, I would love to give you permission to drink some wine. Okay. And this is what I'd like you to do. I want you to drink get me the biggest glass you can, okay? Like a nice big glass, like a goblet, right? Like you're there and you're just like, oh yes, here I am. All right. And I would like you to pour, depending where you are, if you're in the United States, put in a quarter cup of wine. If you were in the the rest of the world that actually uses proper measurements, put in 125 milliliters, okay, of wine in the glass. Now you can have a little red in the bottom, right? You're going to see a little bit of this and it's going to be there. And then take a little sip, okay? And enjoy that, okay? But every 100 minutes, I would like you to pour in a cup of water and then try your wine again. Because every 100 days in the United States, $1 trillion of debt is being added to the balance sheet, right? 100 minutes later, pour another 1 cup of water in your big goblet of glass. Now try your wine. Hey, Nicole, how's it taste? And you're like, Jeff, I don't know, like it's so hard to get ahead. Like I talk to these people and I'm trying to help them and it's just everything seems to be a struggle. Why is it so hard? And I'm like, yeah, because like we're all trying here, but you got somebody that keeps pouring water into our wine. And it's not like Jesus that can just turn water into wine. It's the opposite thing that's happening because they're diluting it and it's no good. Right. And we get a little taste and we're like, oh, this is so great. But in reality it's craziness. And so right now with the US, $36 trillion in debt, that's not looking like it'll change anytime soon. And every 100 days $1 trillion is getting added. I mean, it's nuts. So just like the wine that you've now diluted, if you followed me along with this, hopefully you didn't, it'd be a waste of good wine, but you get the point, right? Like it's just, yeah, this is what happens with your savings. That's what happens with your money. That's what happens with any money my parents saved since I graduated, right? It's just absolutely brutal. And people are waking up that they don't have to live like that.
That's such a good analogy. I'm going to be using that one. Such a good analogy. I mean, definitely, I think it's an example in the mind, not an example in real life, because no one does want to ruin good wine.
We should do
Yeah,
that. If we're ever at a conference together, we should do this, Nicole. You have the goblet, and I'll keep pouring the water in.
I'm in. I'm in.
Okay.
And Jen can drink it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
I love that. Regulation. So I guess with the pro crypto presidency, in simple terms, so maybe the road we're on is a little bit smoother, not as
Yeah.
many bumps and wrong turns and everything coming at the crypto space potentially. What does why is regulation a good thing with Bitcoin, with crypto in general? Like what difference is that going to make? What is that going to open up, do you think?
So, yeah. So you just want clarity, right? Because there's a lot of amazing technology that can be done, right? That can be used. And you just don't want to be thrown in jail for it. Like to be blunt, right? Like that's what's happening is people didn't know where they stood. So like even something as simple as like when I teach the course, one of the first things I do is I teach people how to use NFTs, non-fungible tokens. So, all right, so we'll actually drop it into their digital wallet. All right, and then the next class that is recorded, the only way they can watch that is if they actually have the NFT in their wallet. And not to get too techy, but the website has to go back. It checks, do they have this digital asset? If you have the digital asset, let us we'll let you watch the video. Okay. Really great technology, super secure, protects everybody's privacy, protects my content, right? Protects people from hacking and things like that, right? Then nobody can protects people from sharing their passwords and all of that. So it's really great technology. The crazy thing is, Nicole, that many banks shut people down for using NFTs, non-fungible tokens on the blockchain, including one of my banks. Just said, no, we're not allowed to have clients that would use that. Literally, Starbucks is using this, right? UFC uses it. Ticketmasters were the largest holder of NFTs, right? And so it's stuff like that where people just don't know where you stand because you're just like you walk across the field and someone says, well, you crossed the line, and you're like, well, there was no line here. And they're like, yeah, there is. We just drew it. See, we're drawing it right now. And so any type of clarity is going to help the space. And then as we get more regulation, like let's say, for example, one thing that's being talked about is that Bitcoin, when you would transfer Bitcoin or use it, would not be a taxable transaction. Just like if I would say, take cash from here to here, that shouldn't be a taxable transaction. Okay. Right now, in many places, it's like, well, yeah, you moved it, boom, it's taxable, right? It's kind of like, in Canada here, if if we have any type of drops of things that come to our wallets, right? Regardless whether we use it, sell it, or do anything, they would say, well, you're taxed on it. And so you're like, well, wait a minute. You mean if I grow apples and the apples are on the tree, I don't eat the apples, I don't sell the apples, I don't do anything with the apples. I have to pay taxes on the apples on the tree? I mean, we're out in the country, right? I mean, I owe you taxes on that? Why do I owe you taxes on that, right? It's just craziness like that. So this regulation, as it comes forward, will just give people more clarity. Now, once people have clarity, business people, entrepreneurs like myself, we can start building really cool technology tools, right? We're just launching. I don't, probably not the space to talk about it right now, but you know what it is about. We're going to disrupt the crowdfunding world a bit. Would love to do this in North America. Can't, because the regulation is, although we went over to the EU where the regulation is clear and our company is officially registered now, we have the special license that we need, all because they have proper regulation. And yes, now people in Canada and the United States can just go to our website and use this tech, but we can't do it here because we don't have clear regulation. So it's things like that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. And even you just saying that, it's so funny. I was having someone called me before we even started this podcast, and their accountant was saying the same thing. So, what you own, the value of that, the capital gains, you're going to be taxed on. And I said, but they haven't been realized yet. Like you haven't sold the thing. Like you own a house, you sell the house, you got capital gains. But
Yeah,
until you sell it and realize the gains, you're not, so it's like you're paying in advance. And I was like, okay. And I think, Jeff, there is a lot of, as you said, there's a lot of unknown, there's a lot of guessing, there's a lot of assumption, and that can destroy a lot of wealth, right? It can destroy a lot of progress when we don't know, like as you said,
totally.
where is the line, how does this work? So that just makes so much sense. When we have clarity, we can make the moves, but when we don't know what the rules of the game are, it's like how are you meant to win?
And even banks, like for those of you listening, right? If you're in North America, banks aren't able to hold your Bitcoin for you,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, even just things like that, right? Like, which should be able to happen. So there's a lot of good things that'll come out of it. But again, it's like, Nicole, you're probably not old enough to remember the pagers back in the day when people would wear pagers, right? But there was a bit of a
I've watched movies. There's some of
Okay,
my
you watch
favorite
movies,
movies
right? There
was
was always this kind of drug dealer. There was a bit of a drug dealer kind of bad attitude. You had a little pager on you, for a while. People were like, ooh, these pager. Are they a drug dealer? Right? It's kind of like we've been having to fight that same stigma in crypto. Oh, you're in crypto space. You're developing using this technology. You're in blockchain. You're using technology, right? Are you a criminal type, right? There's been that same kind of attitude with how businesses have been treated, where literally entrepreneurs are sitting here. Back in the day, everybody else is in our world right now today, everybody else is using pagers, and we're sitting here with Zoom and video technology saying we should be using this in money. Let's use it. It's so great. It's working so well. Look what we can do with it. Look at how great we can make the world. I mean, trillions of dollars are going to explode into this industry once the United States shows people a clear path of how things can be done.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And even as you're saying that, Jeff, the thing that is so clear to me, and you've helped it become even more clear, is there is this big block, right? So when you're speaking about like the functions, the different things that the technology gives. That's where I think people are missing it. That's where I was missing it before I really leaned in, dug deep, and educated myself in the space.
Hmm.
Was because I thought crypto and blockchain, I thought they were literally one of the same thing. Like there's nothing else to it. It's just like you buy a coin, and I think of sales arbitrage. Like you buy low, hopefully you sell high. Like, and
Right.
I was like, oh, I don't have time to learn that. I don't know. And it was like, oh, that's not the game at all. And, even understanding, like, we know how phenomenal this technology is. That's what I'm learning. I'm like, this technology is phenomenal. Like I'm very much heavily invested in blockchain projects, like blockchain technology and crypto, like buying the coin and crypto. I see them as two different things. Like I don't just pile them
Absolutely.
all in, but I think most people see them as one in the same. And the
Hmm.
best way I had it explained to me was a guy said, okay, that is like saying the internet and email are one in the same thing.
Right.
We know they're not, right? Because now we
Yeah.
know we use them. They're normal for us. They're everyday things. Like the internet is the technology and it has so many functions. Like I don't know, I'm picking up my phone right now. I could go into my emails. Great. Email is a function of it. I could check the weather for the next week. Great. The apps and checking whether that's a function. I could Google what events are on. I could create a website today. Like all of those things are available because of the technology of the
Hmm.
internet.
Hmm.
But when I understood that, and you just the way you're explaining it now, I think it's such a great point. Is it's like, hey, go in deep to the technology and then have a look at the functions that it gives. Because you were updating us in the class a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. What country was it that used the technology, like blockchain technology,
Oh
to
yeah.
for their election, right?
It was Guatemala. So
Guatemala.
Guatemala had an issue with their last election where votes came in later, right? And so there was this big deal, and they were finding these votes and realized a lot of crime was happening out of it, and people went to jail over it. And so this time they said, "Listen, we don't want to have this issue." So what they did is real time. Everybody got together and they counted the votes, and they said, "Okay, we have this many this hour." They uploaded that data to the Bitcoin blockchain. Now it's immutable, can't be changed, sitting there. And then they kept doing that. So later on, when you come back to audit the election results and you're actually verifying everything, you're actually able to verify real time, time stamped on this time, this day, this is what happened. And, it was great for the election. But here's what's crazy, Nick. There's a county in Georgia, in the United States, the state of Georgia, who also had a similar issue where people were saying, "Oh no, there's all this stuff going on and all this craziness going on." Okay, they actually went to and used this same group, this same technology to upload their results real time. Because the last election in the United States, they were being labeled as manipulators and all these extra votes and that. So they use the same stuff in the United States. So that would have been like a month and a half ago, which is pretty wild. Yeah. But
I think that's it. Once you dive deeper into this and understand the technology behind what we're talking about, it's just the whole world
yeah,
opens,
yeah. Like
right?
like for people watching right now, you're probably even some of this. You're like, wait, what's he saying? What are they talking about? It's kind of going in your head. Just think of it like this. Give you a wheel for the first time, and that wheel's invented. All right. What are you going to do with the wheel? You're going to be like, I don't know, this is cool, right? I don't have to pull sticks behind me anymore. I don't have to have my money take 3, 4, 5 days to be dragged around, everybody taking a little bit piece of it, right? You're like, I'll just use a wheel. Wheels are great. You guys use sticks. I'm over here using a wheel. And then someone's going to have this idea, Nick. They're going to say, oh my gosh, if we put two wheels together, we can, whoa, they'll go like this. And we can then, actually, if we put four, though, it's way more stable, right? And then that's a cart. And now you can move a lot of things quickly, right? But at the time the wheel's getting invented, nobody's sitting there saying, you know what, these are going to become turbines that are going to power planes 30,000 feet in the air, right? That's just not there. And that's where I feel we are right now with Bitcoin and this technology, right? It's just like back in 98, 99, emails coming out and that people weren't thinking about all the use cases we'd be able to do with it today, right? And that's where we are with this invention of Bitcoin. People understand that there's potential, but it's like a wheel. How is it gonna get used? It's gonna be incredible. The internet needs digital money, and it needs digital money that moves at the speed of light. And Bitcoin is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to become that storage of value. Maybe things will be built on it, or maybe it's not designed to be moving for little micro transactions. Okay, there's lots of other good blockchain technology, but for a store of value to protect your wealth and move it, I mean, it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I love that. What would be one thing, Jeff, that you wish everyone right now could understand about Bitcoin?
The scarcity. You don't We don't live in a world that really gets scarcity. So we've grown up where, phones are cheaper, computers are cheaper, right? If we want more of something, we get way more clothes and t-shirts, right? It's time to go shopping. It's Christmas, right? um, Scarcity. If there's always been talk about we're going to run out of oil, right? And then they discover fracking. Now there's oil, right? We've come up with ways to use solar power, right? There's all these different things that we're so used to. But when you understand scarcity in Bitcoin, there's only 21 million. That's it. 21 million. Then you understand 94% of them have already been discovered and mined, and it's going to take another 100 years to get the 100, a little more than 100 years to get the next 6%, right? I mean, when you start to understand that scarcity, right, now it makes sense why the price keeps going up, because as more people understand it and need this technology, right, and they want to store their wealth, and they want to use this technology and use this wheel, there's just more and more demand for it. So I would say the big thing is to really wrap your head around the scarcity. I was talking to a retired fund manager here probably 3 weeks ago, and again, just a guy who's all his life has been focused on for 40 years, managing people's money and making them wealthy, right? And he's quite wealthy himself. And he said, when he said something, I said something about Bitcoin, and we were chatting, we're friends, and I said something, when I mentioned scarcity, he kind of perked up. He said, what do you mean scared? He said, I thought they could just make as much as you want. And I'm like, no, there's only 21 million and only 450 today. Give me $1 billion today. I'll buy all the computers. I still can't get any more extra Bitcoin, right? I can't create more. There's all around the world, everybody working to make some more. There's only 450 a day. And when he got that, Nick, he was like, wow. He goes, this is really interesting. He said, we got to go for lunch, man. Can you share me some, right? So yeah, that'd be the big takeaway. Can I give one other one?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is the first asset that's recognized around the world that's the same everywhere. All right. So it doesn't matter where you go in the world, there'll only be 21 million. Doesn't matter where you go in the world, it'll only be worth X amount of US dollars, or convert it to your currency. It'll be worth the same. So it's worth the same in China, United States, Australia, New Zealand, Russia, right? And it has the same properties, right? So it still has the same decentralization, the same borderless, right, capability. There's no CEO, there's no board of directors, right? Still the same supply every day, and it's permissionless, so anybody can use it, and it's completely voluntarily. Anybody can choose to buy some, right? Nobody can really stop you from doing that, and you can self custody, right? So unlike other things, now, so this is the first time we've ever seen an asset like this. So unlike other things such as gold, now gold will be different, right? In other parts of the world has different values. And in some places, if you're holding gold, men with guns will take it from you very quickly, right? Land has different valuations. The land, wherever you're living is different than the land where I'm living. The land in Australia, right, down in Perth, right, or versus Miami, different valuations, right? Oil, same thing. There's oil in Canada we have no way to, we don't have a pipeline to send it to, to the ocean to really sell it. So we're stuck having to only sell it to the United States, right? So that oil has different valuation than, say, oil would be in Texas or oil would be in Saudi Arabia, right? So as you start to think about different asset classes, how they have different valuations around the world, and then you realize this is the first time in the history of humans we've discovered something that has the same value anywhere in the world, the same characteristics, the same supply, the same accessibility. And maybe accessibility is a strong word for that, because maybe not everybody has a computer, but if you have access to the internet, you can go and get it. And yeah, it's just absolutely amazing to think about that, and to think
Mm.
about being able to access your Bitcoin. Like I could bomb Australia right now, all right? And Nicole, I can't take your Bitcoin. Like literally could come to your country, I can't take it because it's encrypted and protected on the Bitcoin blockchain. So even if I destroyed everybody, destroyed all the seed phrases, I still can't take the wealth of it. So
Yeah.
that's a very powerful concept of how this asset and it, yeah, it's changing everything.
I get why you always refer to it as freedom money or freedom.
Yeah,
You say that
that's
often, don't
money.
you? Yeah,
Yeah, I love freedom money
I got that. Yeah.
because we I understand the need for governments, and again, as a libertarian, I think the less government, the better, right? But I'm just sitting here just this week, right, in Canada, our deficit is was projected to be at $40 billion, billion, not million, billion. We're over $60 billion. So we've gone over 50%, and our Ministry of Finance, Freeland, she just resigned unexpectedly and walked away. The person, one of the key people responsible for this, just walks away. Like, okay, sorry, Canada, I just put you in another 50% over what we said we would do, right? Like, and what happens there? Where's that money come from? That's our money. They're literally robbing from the future. No different than you with your credit cards. If you run up your credit cards at Christmas time, there is a reckoning coming that you're going to have to pay them back, right? We've all felt that pinch when we've spent more than we can afford, right? Or we put it on credit, all right? Well, the same thing is happening with governments around the world, right? They're able to just print money and then borrow it against the future, and it costs all of us, right? Except the rich. And if you're in hard assets like land, gold, good real estate, stock market, then when this happens, hard assets have to go up in value because they're being repriced. They're worth more. So they actually do really well. And in this case, if you held Bitcoin, you're also going to do really well, which is why you're not too late. You're just not super early anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, last question for you, Jeff. What
Okay.
is the biggest misconception around Bitcoin that drives you nuts?
It's people comparing it to all these other shit coins. Like it really does. I mean, that drives me nuts, right? It's everybody sits there and tries to say there's a better Bitcoin, there's a better this, there's a better that. They're always comparing it, right? I mean, that does really drive me nuts, because it's like people can't believe that the wheel is just the wheel and it does what it's supposed to do, right? Like it's like why can't you just accept the wheel does a great job? Like it's the wheel, right? Fire, like once you discovered fire works, right? Like I mean, it's fire. Like you don't need something different than fire. Fire does a great job at it, right? These are those type of inventions. And so it really drives me nuts when I see people who don't take the time to research and understand Bitcoin, but they're happy to dismiss it because they read something on Reddit or some Facebook post. I saw one today that came through, some finance guy saying such and such. And it's just like, you know, they're off chasing something else. It'll be the next best thing. And it's like, okay, why not just take the time? Just take 10 hours. You don't have to take a lot of time. Just take 10 hours and to read through, understand it, and really think critical thinking about it before you make the decision to just cast it aside. Like, I don't know, just maybe some of these presidents of countries and these massive, huge corporations that are adopting it might know better than that anonymous person on Facebook or Twitter. Okay? Just, or Instagram. They just, maybe they know something you don't know. You might be worthwhile understanding why Bitcoin's worth almost $2 trillion and takes about 60% of the crypto market cap. I mean, I don't know. I mean, not to, I don't, I don't want to tell you what to do. I just saying, like, there's a lot of smart people out there that have put a lot of money into this. You might want to jump on that freaking train.
Yeah, there's some signs, right? Like that's the thing when they call it smart money, right? When smart money comes in, BlackRock, Fidelity, like it's
Mhm.
they've been buying in for a long time. I think after they were calling it a scam, they were actually buying in.
Right. And that's where I think a lot of people get it wrong. Like they think, well, there's no way I can get in on this, right? Well, the fact is, it's still, you can still buy ahead before all these big corporations and countries have, like Microsoft just declined to buy some, right? And it said they're gonna have to look into it some more. Like, and we've got pension funds that are now considering it, right? You got the United States talking about a Bitcoin strategic reserve and actually, getting legislation together. Texas just came out and filed that they want to have, they want to look into having a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world, not state, economy in the world, and they're looking at doing this. You still have the chance to get some before these people do it. A lot of people are like, it can't be like that. It can't be that easy. But that's the thing with freedom money. Decentralized, borderless, right? Bitcoin, encrypted energy available for anybody.
Yeah, love that. Jeff, can you fill us in just a little bit about your course that we're doing with Women to Wealth? Because I know next year, so for everyone listening in, we want to ensure that it's available and open up to more people within the Women to Wealth network and beyond, of course. And I just think it's such an important 8 weeks, 8 modules that people do. One, to cover a lot of the things that we've spoken about in this chat, right? To be safe,
Yeah,
to be clued up, to know where to do your research and from who, to know where to start and how to start. Like all those things that, as you said, usually get in the way and keep someone on the start line. Like they haven't even got involved in it. So talk to us a little bit about the course because I'm in it. I love it. Chris and I are doing it. We're just learning so much. Like every week, it's just like, wow, I didn't think of that. But it's important knowledge to have to keep safe and to be able to play in this space.
sure. Thanks for that, Nick. Well, first off, I've got to give you and Jen a shout out for, just opening up the opportunity and pushing me a little bit to be like, hey, we should do something. And then in particular, really want to give the former students a shout out because, what's super cool is when we first did it back in March of this year. So that was about what I think about 10 months ago, I guess. No, 6 months. Oh, got to get my math right. Um, when it's,
That
you know what?
number.
It's December, March 2024. If those students had bought at the worst possible time, Bitcoin at which would have been $73,750. I looked it up. The worst possible price during that course, okay? And they would have had to have not paid attention to module 6, which is all about investing in crypto. If they buy at the worst possible, they're up today over 46%. If they had listened and bought at kind of followed, we all talked about the $60,000 mark being such a great spot and anything under there was a real bargain. Those same people would be up 80%. That's like just in March and it's December now, right? And that's the value, whether you get it from me or somebody else, that's the value of getting knowledge that's been compressed. Okay, you're getting somebody else's years of experience. In this case, they got years of my experience that then allows them to make good decisions, right, and better decisions. So in the course, what I try to do is take people from zero, they don't know anything, right, and I say try because they got to be willing to walk with me and do the work. Like it's not just oh, here, listen to this podcast while you work out, right? It's like, as you know, there's some work to do. But if they'll do that work over 8 weeks, I will get them very quickly up to an intermediate understanding of crypto and Bitcoin. And at that point, then they can really make a good decision, right? They can think, do I want to use this in my business? Do I want to invest? right? I'm hearing so much about it. Is it something I want to participate in? And for some people, maybe they get all the way through and they say, you know what, that was the best money I ever spent because I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm going to go to my financial advisor and I'm going to sit down and talk to them about having some Bitcoin exposure. And maybe that's all they need to do. But then there's other people who I don't want to name, who are going to say the other side and be like, oh, this is so great. I got into this and I did this and look how well I'm doing. And they're very, very happy. And yeah, so that's what the course is about. What we're going to be doing for Women to Wealth, and I'm working with the video guy I use now, is we're going to be putting together a step-by-step do-it-yourself module. So you can kind of do it at your own pace. And we'll take the recordings and it'll be a lower price point than it was previously. And then somebody will be able to, on their own time. So, one of the challenges is always time zones, right? You're trying to juggle everybody's time zone. And, somebody has kids, maybe, when we decide to have it is right when your kids need you or your soccer practice or whatever. So this way it'll be recordings and they're going to be able to go through and they'll do it. Now we'll still do a live one as time permits, but this allows people just that opportunity. So that'll be coming out in the new year.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. And Jeff, just so you know, one of the ladies shared, it was probably maybe a month ago or so, but she said from doing the course and starting, which is the biggest mistake most people have, as you said, she's up $40,000 just in that time. So I don't know what the percentage was. I don't know where they started, but up 40K, and that was before it's hit the all-time high. So they're up a lot more than that. So this is why
Love it.
it's so important just to start to get ourselves in the position to get educated, so then we can make the empowered decision. Whether it's, hey, I'm just going to play, I'm just going to have a little bit of that, or hey, I want to dive deeper into this space, and this is how I'm going to build a portfolio around this. Whatever it is, you help us make a decision from an empowered place. So I'm excited. We're going to be launching that in 2025, everyone. So make sure that you are in our spaces, that you're reaching out and looking out for that
Wait,
information.
Nicole, did we just announce it here first?
We did.
I think we did, didn't we? Congratulations to you and to me and everybody else.
And everybody
Yeah,
else.
it'll be great.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
and the
you.
thing is if nothing else, like whether you do the course or not do the course, take time to figure out and learn about Bitcoin, right? I mean, obviously, I'd love to have you as a student, love to have you join what we do because it's just so empowering to see people like light up, and especially when they start doing well and making money and protecting their wealth. It's just my gosh, it's like I've infected them with a freedom virus. Like they just think different, right? They're so excited, right? It's so great. But whatever you do, take the time. Don't just dismiss it. Take the time to really learn through. And obviously, if you're watching this and listening to this, it's because you're interested. And Women to Wealth and what Nicole and Jen are doing are absolutely fantastic groups to get in and really grab a hold of this and run with it also.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Appreciate you, Jeff. And here is to launching it in 2025.
And today, new all-time highs of 108,000. Like, right? Who knows how far this thing's going to go? We're going to look back on this 4 years ago and be like, oh my gosh, it was so cheap back then. We should have bought more, right?
Yeah, very cool. Jeff, thank you so much for your time, and excited to do more work with you in the new year.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks everybody that's for listening.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys. Bye.